Hello, friends. Enjoy this relaxing moment with Valentino Stories. Remember to subscribe and share your thoughts on the comments section and generously hit the like button because it means a lot to us. Amanda was just 12 years old, yet she was already considered unusual by almost everyone in her village, Yumyuk. Quiet and often lost in thought, Amanda had a way of gazing into the distance as if she could see things others could not. Even the most carefree children in Yumyuk would sometimes pause to look at her, unnerved by her thoughtful silence. She lived with her mother, Neka, in a small mud house near a thicket of palm trees and shrubs. This house, though modest, had once been full of warmth and laughter when Amanda's father was alive. But that was 7 years ago. Today, the walls looked tired and the roof, made of dried palm fronds, often leaked when the rain became too heavy. Despite these hardships, mother and daughter did their best to keep the place clean. The earthen floor was swept every morning with a straw broom, and the open front area was cleared of leaves and pebbles. Neka might have been poor, but she was proud, and she taught Amanda to respect their home and the land that provided them with food. A tragic event had cast a long shadow over Amanda's life. When she was 5, her father died in a sudden and terrible manner. It happened on an evening when the village men gathered for a routine meeting. At that tender age, Amanda had quietly warned her mother, "Daddy shouldn't go. Something bad will happen." Her mother, exhausted by daily struggles, did not pay much attention. Everyone assumed Amanda was simply an imaginative child, spinning tales for attention. Sadly, Amanda's warning was right. Her father returned home late that night, clutching his stomach and vomiting blood. He could hardly speak, and before any help could arrive, he was gone. The village elders insisted it was bad food or poisoning from a meal shared at the meeting, but the details remained murky and confusing. Neka wept for days, holding Amanda close, realizing, too late, that her daughter had sensed a danger nobody else had. Since then, word spread through Yumyuk about Amanda's strange ability to see problems before they occurred. Some people whispered about her being a seer or a girl cursed by the spirits. Others merely shrugged off as wild rumor. Amanda herself found it easier to stay quiet. She felt guilt over her father's death. Even though she was only 5 when it happened, she would replay that moment in her head, wondering if she could have done more to warn him. One bright morning, Neka woke Amanda at dawn so they could walk to their small farmland. They needed to weed and plant seeds for the next season's harvest. Their lives depended on the yams, cassava, and vegetables they managed to grow. Though Amanda was just a child, she worked side by side with her mother, her hands dirty from soil, her face streaked with sweat. As they walked along the narrow dirt path, they admired the sun creeping over the horizon. Birds sang from the tall palm trees, and a soft breeze carried the smell of fresh leaves and damp earth. Some large footprints in the dirt revealed that early travelers had already passed, probably heading to the market or to other nearby farms. They were about halfway to their destination when they spotted Matsi Okonkwo. He was the village's well-liked palm wine tapper, tall, cheerful, and always humming a tune. Around his shoulder hung a thick rope he used for climbing palm trees. At his waist was a machete, meant for cutting away dried fronds to reveal the sweet sap inside. He greeted them warmly, as he did with everyone in the village. "Good morning, Neka." "Amanda," he called out, stopping a few steps away. "Off to the farm so early?" Neka smiled back, adjusting the basket on her head. "Yes, we must clear the weed before the sun gets too hot." Before she could finish, Amanda's body went rigid, her eyes widening. A wave of dread swept through her. She tugged at her mother's wrapper with trembling fingers. "Mama," she whispered, so low that Neka had to lean in. "Tell Matsi Okonkwo to go back. If he climbs today, he'll fall from the tree and he won't survive." Neka's eyes widened in alarm. This was not a casual comment. Whenever Amanda spoke in that urgent tone, it usually meant something terrible was about to happen. Yet, Neka also felt mortified. What if Amanda was wrong? Or what if Matsi Okonkwo took offense at being told he would die? Trying to hide her distress, she put a hand on Amanda's shoulder. "Don't say such things," she scolded gently, hoping to keep the situation calm. "We do not speak of death like that." But Amanda's expression remained tense. She looked straight at the tall palm wine tapper, her voice quivering. "Please, Matsuo Okonkwo," she pleaded, "don't climb the tree today." He only chuckled good-naturedly. "My dear child, I've been tapping palm wine for 20 years, he said, trying to brush off her concern. "I know what I'm doing. Don't worry yourself." With that, he flashed a confident smile and continued toward a cluster of towering palm trees in the distance. Nneka could feel the panic rising in Amanda, so she touched her daughter's arm softly. "It's all right," she whispered. "He's careful." But Amanda's shoulders remained tense. She stared after him until he was out of sight. Then, with a heavy sigh, she let her mother guide her onward. They reached their farmland, cleared weeds, and spread fresh seeds across the loosened earth, hoping for a good harvest. Every so often, Nneka would notice Amanda looking up at the distant palm trees, worry etched on her face. Barely 30 minutes later, a sudden scream tore through the still morning air. It was a young boy, sprinting down the path in the direction of the palm trees, face pale and voice shaking. "Matsuo Okonkwo has fallen," he shouted. "He's dead." He fell from the palm tree. Nneka froze, the basket of weeds tumbling from her hands. A rush of horror and disbelief hit her. She turned slowly to Amanda, who stared in the direction of the cries with sad, resigned eyes. Though she was just a child, Amanda's face revealed that she had expected this outcome. In that instant, Nneka understood there was no denying her daughter's ability. Twice now, Amanda had foretold death, and both times people had dismissed her. This time, the tragedy was fresh and undeniable. Matsuo Okonkwo's lifeless body lay at the base of a palm tree he had confidently climbed only moments earlier. What did it mean for Amanda to carry such a gift or curse? Nneka had no answers, only questions. She held her daughter's hand as they walked back toward the village, each footstep heavy with a mixture of shock, grief, and fear. From that day onward, the name Amanda would evoke both wonder and unease in the hearts of the villagers. In the aftermath of Matsuo Okonkwo's sudden death, an uneasy stillness blanketed Yumyuk. People gathered in small groups to discuss what had happened, each telling and retelling the moment they heard the news. They spoke of how a man so skilled in climbing could have slipped. Whispers began to swirl once more about Amanda's words. Some insisted it was pure coincidence. Others lowered their voices and said Amanda had predicted it with uncanny accuracy. Nneka, meanwhile, wrestled with guilt and confusion. She could not forget how Amanda had tugged at her wrapper, begging Matsuo Okonkwo not to climb. If only she had insisted harder, perhaps he would still be alive. Yet, at the same time, Nneka was afraid the villagers might start calling Amanda a witch, someone who summons death by simply speaking of it. Sleep evaded Nneka for days. Each night, she lay on a thin mat inside their dimly lit house. As a single mother, she had countless worries. Where would their next meal come from? Could she trust anyone now that rumors about Amanda were intensifying? And what if Amanda's predictions continued, bringing fear and suspicion upon them? Amanda, for her part, was subdued but carried on with her daily tasks. She helped her mother fetch water from a communal well, did her share of housework, and attended school. She was careful to keep her head down and avoid drawing attention. Yet, the guilt in her chest felt heavy. Each time she foresaw a tragedy, it came true, and she had no power to stop it. A few days later, something even more shocking happened. This time, right at Nneka's doorstep. On a humid afternoon, a man arrived carrying a covered bowl of steaming rice and stew. That man was Matsi Emeka, Nneka's brother-in-law and her late husband's younger brother. He had been helpful ever since the death of Amanda's father. Whenever Nneka ran out of money or food, Matsi Emeka appeared with a small gift of yams or beans. He even occasionally gave Amanda coins to buy notebooks for school. As far as Nneka knew, he was a supportive relative, someone she could rely on. That day, he set the bowl down on a small wooden stool inside the house and said, "My sister-in-law, it's been a while since I visited. I know you and Amanda are struggling, so here's some fresh food to keep your strength up." He spoke kindly, patting the cloth lid to keep in the warmth. This stew was made with the best ingredients. Enjoy. Nneka was genuinely touched. She thanked him sincerely, calling him a generous soul. "May God bless you," she said. Amanda will be home from school soon, and we'll eat together. After Matsi Emeka left, Neka continued with her chores, grateful for his kindness. By the time Amanda returned, sweating under the scorching sun, the house was filled with a delicious aroma of seasoned rice and stew. Neka beamed, removing the lid and showing her the food. "See, your uncle brought this today," she said. "We've been blessed." But Amanda's face grew pale, her eyes fixed on the bowl, and she shook her head slowly. "Mama," she whispered, "please don't eat that. It's poison." A chill ran up Neka's spine. She set the lid down immediately. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Your uncle has helped us many times. Why would he poison us?" Amanda's small hands gripped the edge of the stool. "I saw it," she insisted, tears already forming in her eyes. "He's not a good man. He's the same one who had a hand in poisoning Papa. Now he wants to poison you." Neka's world seemed to tilt. Could her trusted brother-in-law be responsible for her husband's death and now attempting to kill her too? It sounded too cruel to be true. Yet she had just witnessed Amanda predict Matsi Okonkwo's demise with horrifying accuracy. She could not afford to ignore her daughter now. With her heart racing, Neka decided on a quick test. She scooped a small portion of the rice and stew into a battered calabash and placed it outside for one of their goats. The goat, always hungry, ate the meal eagerly. Amanda and Neka watched from a short distance, mind spinning. Within minutes, the goat began to stumble and convulse. Foam gathered at its mouth, and it let out pitiful noises before collapsing, lifeless, onto the dirt. Neka gasped, stumbling backward in horror. The truth was undeniable. The food was indeed poisoned. Had Amanda not warned her, she would have eaten it. Tears streamed down Neka's face as she realized how close she had come to meeting the same fate as her husband. She pulled Amanda into a shaky embrace, both of them terrified by the cruelty they had just exposed. That night, sleep eluded Neka again. She sat outside the house under a waning moon, hugging her knees, replaying the events. Matsi Emeka, her own brother-in-law, had seemingly orchestrated the death of her husband and almost succeeded in killing her as well. But why? Was it jealousy over land or inheritance? The possible reasons spun in her head, and none of them seemed to lessen her grief. Inside, Amanda lay awake, listening to the night sounds. Crickets sang, and a breeze rustled the dry leaves around their small compound. She heard her mother's stifled sobs and wished she could take away the pain. Yet, Amanda was only a child with a frightening gift. She felt powerless, even though her warning had saved her mother's life. By dawn, Neka resolved that the time for silence was over. This gift Amanda carried was no small matter. It had now uncovered a murder attempt in their own family. Neka decided to seek help beyond Yumyuk. If someone could guide them, someone wise or spiritual, perhaps they would learn how to protect themselves and better understand Amanda's strange visions. It was still dark when Neka and Amanda set out for the neighboring village called Umwofia. Neka carried a small cloth bag stuffed with a spare wrapper, a bit of food, and a few coins. Amanda's footsteps were slow but steady, her mind swirling with questions. Where were they going? Who was this man of God her mother spoke about? Umwofia was known in the region for having a famous prophet called Prophet Elijah. Many travel from far-off places, seeking healing, blessings, or spiritual insights from him. It was said he could drive out evil spirits and see visions that came straight from God. Desperate for answers, Neka believed Prophet Elijah might be able to help them handle Amanda's ability, or at least advise them on what to do next. Their path took them past farmland and thick clusters of trees. Occasionally, small streams trickled across the dirt road, forcing them to step carefully over the wet ground. Neka worried about bandits, wild animals, or losing their way, but her determination was strong. Amanda's warnings had saved her life, and she refused to remain ignorant of the forces shaping her daughter's future. As they walked, Amanda gently tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Mama, I've seen something about this prophet," she began timidly, her voice echoing in the peaceful morning air. "He's not who he seems to be. He pretends to serve God, but he uses charms and deceives people." Neka pursed her lips. How could Amanda know this? Yet each time Amanda spoke of a vision, she had been proven correct. Still, Nneka hoped they were wrong this time. "Let's see him first," she replied quietly, beads of sweat forming on her forehead. "Maybe your warning is just fear. If we sense something is wrong, we can always leave." They pressed on, the journey lasting several hours under a rising sun that beat down relentlessly. Amanda's sandals kicked up dust, and her mother's wrapper grew damp with sweat. Finally, the shape of Umwolfia's buildings appeared on the horizon. Unlike Umyuk, which was small and mostly made of mud huts, Umwolfia featured some modern structures, cement-walled shops, a few small restaurants, and one large church building gleaming in white paint. A wide banner in front of the building proclaimed, "House of Fire Ministries, Prophet Elijah, God's mouthpiece." The yard outside was packed with people singing, dancing, and praying loudly. Some appeared to be in tears, while others waved their arms in fervent supplication. Ushers in white shirts and black trousers guided newcomers to seats. Nneka and Amanda entered hesitantly, finding a spot among the hundreds seated on wooden benches. The air buzzed with excited conversation and the pounding of drums. After several songs, Prophet Elijah emerged from the back of the church. He wore a gleaming white robe embroidered with gold thread around the cuffs and collar. In his hand was a thick Bible, and he spoke with a booming, confident voice. First, he preached about faith and miracles, punctuating each sentence with dramatic gestures. Then he began a prophecy session, calling random people to front, declaring that God had shown him glimpses of their lives. One woman sobbed in gratitude as he supposedly revealed her hidden illness. A man shouted hallelujah when the prophet claimed that financial breakthrough was near. The atmosphere pulsed with emotion and expectation. Suddenly, Prophet Elijah's gaze fell on Amanda. He pointed at her, commanding her to step forward. Amanda exchanged an anxious glance with her mother, who gently nudged her. At the front, the prophet placed his hand on Amanda's head, closing his eyes as though in deep communion with the divine. After a few moments, he lifted his head and addressed the congregation. "This child carries a dark spirit within her," he intoned, his voice grave and echoing off the walls. "She must remain in this church for complete deliverance, or she risks great harm." Nneka's heart pounded. Was it true? Or did this man simply sense something unusual and want control over her daughter? The prophet went on to say that Amanda needed 7 days of isolation and prayer. "Leave her here," he said to Nneka. "She must be purified." Amanda glanced at her mother with frightened eyes. Nneka remembered the warnings, the possibility that Prophet Elijah was not who he claimed to be. Tension crackled in the air. Worshippers around them whispered among themselves. Staring at Amanda, "I'm sorry," Nneka said finally, finding her voice. "I can't leave my daughter here." Prophet Elijah's face hardened, but he tried to smile. "Woman, don't be foolish," he said in a stern tone, which he attempted to soften. "If you don't do this, you will regret it. Obedience is better than sacrifice." Nneka felt her stomach twist, but she recalled how Amanda had saved her from the poison. She squeezed her daughter's hand, ignoring the nervous stares of the congregation. "Thank you for your time," she said to the prophet, "but we'll go back now." They quickly left the church, not bothering to explain themselves. Outside, the sun was still blazing, and crowds of people milled around in search of blessings. Amanda gazed up at her mother. "Thank you for believing me," she whispered. Nneka nodded, relief flooding her. Maybe they had wasted the journey, but at least they had not left Amanda in the clutches of someone untrustworthy. After resting briefly, they began the long trek back to Umyuk, their energy flagging. With every step, Nneka's mind raced, wondering what to do next. Had she done the right thing, or had she walked away from what could have been real help? When they finally reached their village in the late afternoon, they went straight home. Their mud house felt even smaller after experiencing the big church in Umwolfia. Nneka prepared a simple meal of boiled yam. Neither spoke much. Over the flickering glow of a kerosene lantern, mother and daughter exchanged weary glances. They had found no solutions, no real guidance. Only another reminder that Amanda's gift was as confusing as ever. Still, Nneka silently vowed to trust her daughter. If Amanda said the prophet was false, so be it. Better protect her child than to risk losing her in the name of deliverance. Perhaps, one day, a better path would reveal itself. Despite returning home with no clear answers, Nneka felt an urgent need to uncover the full truth behind her husband's death and her brother-in-law's betrayal. She feared that as long as nothing was done, the danger might persist. What if Emeka tried again? Her mind was filled with worry. Amanda, meanwhile, continued to see unsettling images in her dreams, images that reminded her of her father. Late one evening, after they had finished their meal of cassava fufu and vegetable soup, Amanda sat beside the dying embers of their small cooking fire. Quietly, she said, "Mama, Papa's spirit is not at rest. He's trapped." Nneka's heart thudded. She had heard Amanda mention such things before, but she never knew what to do about them. "Trapped?" she asked, her voice trembling. Amanda explained it in her recent dreams. Her father tried to speak, only to be held back by an unseen force. "He wants revenge," she said, "but something is preventing him. A chain is buried beside his grave, keeping him silent." A cold shiver ran up Nneka's spine. She thought about the many secrets and half-truths that had surrounded her husband's death. Could Emeka have done more than just poison him? Could he have used some dark charm to bind his brother's spirit? Nneka tried to push away her fear. "Let's see," she managed to say. "If it's there, we have to remove it. Maybe then your father can rest." That night, with the moon high and the village drifting into slumber, Nneka and Amanda crept toward the back of their house. There, a few feet from a gnarled tree, was a small clearing where her husband's grave lay. The ground was marked with simple wooden cross hammered into the earth, now weathered and leaning slightly. Holding a lantern in one hand and a short hoe in the other, Nneka followed Amanda's lead. The lantern's flame flickered in the night breeze, casting moving shadows on the uneven ground. Amanda circled the grave with slow, careful steps. Suddenly, she stopped near the edge. "Here," she said with conviction. "Dig right here, Mama." With her nerves on edge, Nneka struck the ground. The soil was surprisingly soft, and after only a few scoops, the hoe hit something solid. Kneeling, she clawed at the dirt with her hands. Bit by bit, a rusty metal chain was revealed, coiled into loops as though intentionally hidden. The metal links were thick, corroded, and covered in mud. Nneka lifted the chain, feeling both horror and anger. Who would place such a thing beside a grave? It smelled of old earth and rust, and a strange heaviness seemed to emanate from it. Amanda stared at the chain, her eyes sorrowful. "Emeka buried it," she whispered. "He used it to trap Papa's spirit, so it couldn't fight back." Nneka's throat tightened with emotion. She remembered the day she discovered Emeka had poisoned her husband's food. That betrayal was painful enough. But now, realizing he had gone to this dark length made her furious. Setting the chain aside, she refilled the shallow hole and patted down the earth, praying silently for her husband's spirit to find peace. They returned to the house, mind spinning. The next morning, before sunrise even touched the sky, frantic cries echoed through the village. Word spread quickly. Matsi Emeka had gone mad in the early hours, screaming confessions about poisoning his brother for inheritance and bearing a chain to silence the dead. He ranted wildly that a force was now punishing him. Moments later, he collapsed and died, leaving villagers stunned and terrified. Nneka and Amanda heard the commotion through their window. Neighbors rushed by, shouting about Emeka's bizarre last words. Some claimed they actually saw the chain in his compound, a twisted symbol of guilt. Others insisted the chain was possessed by the angry spirit of Nneka's husband. Over the next few hours, details grew clearer. Emeka had not only orchestrated his brother's death, but also conspired with others to ensure Nneka and Amanda would be left penniless. The entire scheme unraveled with his final confession. Shock gripped Yumyuk. People talked in hushed voices, half afraid Amanda might predict yet another tragedy if they confronted her directly. For Nneka, this moment brought conflicting emotions. She felt relief that the truth was exposed, but sadness that her husband's own brother had harbored such hatred. Amanda showed no triumph. She only looked tired and burdened. She did not like to see people die, even if they were evil. Over and over, she had tried to warn the adults around her, yet only at the end did anyone believe her words without question. The villagers who once murmured behind their backs began to see Amanda differently. Some kept their distance, fearing she had supernatural powers beyond their comprehension. Others approached shyly, offering apologies for not having listened. Still, a deep unease lingered. Death and secrets had been revealed, and Amanda's strange gift stood at the center of it all. That evening, Nneka took Amanda's hand and held it close. Tears welled in her eyes as she remembered her husband, loyal, loving, and taken too soon. She prayed his spirit could finally rest, freed from the chain that had bound him. Amanda leaned against her mother, wishing for a peaceful life. But fate seemed to have more in store, and soon another dramatic shift would transform Amanda's reputation in the eyes of the entire kingdom. Not long after Emika's shocking confession and sudden death, Yumyuk was once again plunged into sorrow. The beloved king of the village fell gravely ill and died, leaving the people mourning the loss of their ruler. The drums echoed solemnly across the fields, and village elders wore black cloth around their arms as a sign of grief. Masqueraders performed ceremonial dances to honor the departed monarch's spirit. Soon after the funeral, the chiefs announced that the late king's son, Crown Prince Afani, would be returning from the United Kingdom to prepare for his coronation. The news spread excitement and also a slight nervousness. Some villagers wondered what kind of leader the prince would be, since he had spent many years abroad and was not often seen in Yumyuk. When Prince Afani arrived, the atmosphere in the village brightened slightly, despite the lingering sadness of the king's passing. The young prince was tall, with a dignified bearing. He spoke respectfully to the elders, promising to rule kindly as his father did. He also showed curiosity about the daily lives of ordinary people, wanting to understand their needs rather than staying hidden behind palace walls. Preparations for his coronation began in earnest. Skilled workers crafted elaborate stools and carved designs into wooden pillars that would decorate the palace. Dancers practiced special routines for the coronation festival. Families saved up what little money they had to buy new wrappers so they could dress well for the event. The palace courtyard bustled with servants carrying baskets of yams, goats, and spices, all in anticipation of a grand feast. Despite the flurry of activity, a sense of unease lingered in certain corners of Yumyuk. The death of the king had been sudden, and rumors swirled that an unknown illness or poison had taken him. Some suspected foul play, but lacked the courage to speak openly. Still, all the official news claimed it had been a simple sickness. Prince Afani, wanting to connect with his future subjects, decided to take a walk to the village, escorted by 2 palace guards. He wore a simple white tunic and trousers that day, not wanting to draw too much attention. Stepping onto the dusty paths, he greeted people, asked about their families, and encouraged them to come to his coronation ceremony. It was during this walk that he crossed paths with Amanda and Nneka. They were headed to the market, hoping to buy some vegetables for supper. Spotting the prince, Nneka bowed respectfully and said, "Good afternoon, my prince." Amanda followed her mother's lead, lowering her eyes politely. Prince Afani smiled, appreciating that they did not show fear or frantic excitement. He asked their names, and Nneka introduced herself and her daughter, adding that her husband had passed away years ago. Amanda stood quietly, her hands folded in front of her. But the moment she looked at the prince, a sudden flash of fear streaked across her eyes. She stepped forward slightly and spoke with a voice that trembled, yet carried a firm note. "Your Highness, please, don't eat the food that will be served to you when you return to the palace today. If you do, you will die." A hush fell over the small group. The guards glanced at each other in alarm, hands hovering near their weapons. Prince Afani's brow furrowed. He was both intrigued and taken aback by such a direct warning from a young girl. Nneka quickly intervened, her heart pounding. "My prince, please believe us. My daughter has visions. If she says there's danger, then danger is truly there. It may sound strange, but she has seen these things happen before." The prince studied Amanda carefully, noting her earnest gaze. Although he was skeptical, he sensed no malice. "I see," he said quietly. "Your words are noted. I will be careful." Then, with a polite nod, he and his guards continued on their way. Amanda let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Neka's hand shook slightly as she clutched her daughter's arm. "You've warned him," she whispered. "I pray he listens." Prince Afani returned to the palace that afternoon and found a lavish meal prepared for him in the royal dining hall. The table was laid with steaming jollof rice, spicy goat meat stew, and fresh palm wine. The sight and aroma were tempting, especially after a long day of walking around the village. But Amanda's words echoed in his mind. Sitting down, he summoned the palace chef who had overseen the meal's preparation. Prince Afani fixed him with a steady gaze and said, "Taste everything on this table first." The chef went pale, his hands trembling. Under normal circumstances, tasting a dish in a prince's presence was not unusual, but the chef looked terrified. Sweat formed on his brow. Seeing the man's fear, the prince grew suspicious. He commanded his guards to seize the chef. After some shouting and threats of punishment, the chef collapsed to his knees, sobbing. "I'm sorry, my prince," he cried. "I was paid by Onawu, the prime minister, to poison your father slowly, and now I was to do the same to you. I had no choice." The prince's heart pounded in shock and anger. His father had been murdered, and Onawu, a man holding one of the highest offices in the kingdom, was behind it. Rage flared in him, but he forced himself to remain calm. He ordered the guard to lock the chef away, and then issued an immediate command. "Seize Onawu! Arrest him before he flees." Within hours, the prime minister, once respected for his position, was dragged into custody. His possessions were seized, and a hastily assembled council of chiefs demanded an explanation. Onawu, panicking, tried to bribe or threaten his way out of punishment, but no one dared to defy the prince now that the truth was exposed. Word of this unfolding drama spread through the village like wildfire. People stood in clusters, discussing Amanda's warning to the prince. Once again, the young girl's foresight had saved a life. This time, that life belonged to royalty, and it changed everything. No longer was Amanda just a strange child rumored to predict death. She had become the girl who saved the crown prince from certain doom. Morning light revealed a village still buzzing with the latest news. The prime minister had plotted to murder the prince, just as he had once arranged the king's untimely death. Now, he was under guard, awaiting judgment. The people murmured about how betrayal could fester even in the highest ranks. Through it all, Amanda's name featured prominently in their conversations. Some praised her as a heaven-sent child. Others still felt uneasy, as though such power should be feared rather than celebrated. Inside their small mud house, Amanda and Neka finished a humble breakfast of roasted yam dipped in palm oil. Their conversation hovered around the arrest of Onawu and the upheaval in the palace. Neka felt a mixture of relief and lingering worry. Relief because an evil plot had been stopped, but worry about how the rest of the world would now view Amanda. Suddenly, they heard approaching footsteps. Pulling aside the cloth that served as their door, they saw two royal guards entering the compound. Dressed in gleaming uniforms, they exuded calm authority. One of them bowed slightly and said, "We have come at the order of the crown prince. He wishes to speak with Amanda and her mother." Neka felt her heart pound. Though the last few days had been filled with shocking events, she had never expected the prince to visit personally. Before she could respond, the sound of a horse-drawn carriage caught her attention. Moments later, Prince Afani stepped down from the carriage, wearing a simple but elegant white caftan. He was smiling. "Amanda," the prince said, approaching the young girl. She gazed up at him, her heartbeat fluttering with nervousness. "You saved my life," he declared warmly. "I don't know how to thank you enough." Amanda gave a shy nod, her eyes darting to her mother. "I only spoke what I saw," she said, voice soft. "I'm glad you believe me." The prince turned to Neka. "Your daughter has a precious gift," he said, his tone serious but kind. "I want to make sure both of you are taken care of. You have suffered enough already." With a brief gesture to his guards, Prince Afani made an announcement that left Neka speechless. "I will have a new house built here for you, a stronger house with proper roof and windows, somewhere safe." Tears of gratitude welled in Neka's eyes. She bowed her head, struggling to find words. "My prince, this is too much. Thank you." He raised a hand to show it was all right. "You deserve it." Then he added, and I wish for you both to attend my coronation, not just as spectators, but as special guests of honor. His gaze fell on Amanda. After the ceremony, if you are willing, I would be honored to have you both live in the palace. Your gift could be of great help to the kingdom. For a moment, Nneka could only stare in astonishment. All her life, she had battled poverty and struggled to protect her daughter from the cruelty of rumors and plots. Now, the future king himself was offering them comfort, security, and a place by his side. She dropped to her knees, weeping with relief. "May your reign be blessed," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "We will do whatever we can to serve you." Amanda felt both excitement and an odd sense of peace. The gift that had caused so much fear and sorrow was now opening a door to a brighter future. She thought of the warnings she had given, the lives lost, and the danger she had foreseen. It had all led to this moment. While she knew life in the palace might hold new challenges, she felt ready to use her ability for good. With a gentle smile, the prince helped Nneka to her feet. "Thank you," he said. "I look forward to the day we all stand in the palace together." Turning to Amanda, he added, "I promise you, I will not misuse your gift. Your visions will be respected." Nneka and Amanda bowed again as Prince Afani and his guards took their leave. Within minutes, curious neighbors came peeking around the corners of their compound. Word quickly spread that the prince had come in person to express his gratitude. People marveled at how Amanda's quiet foresight had changed her family's fate so dramatically. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Nneka and Amanda sat on a small wooden bench near the front of their mud house, holding hands. The prince's promise of a new home shone in their minds like a bright lantern in a dark night. They recalled the tragedies they had endured: the father's death, the betrayal by Emeka, the failed trip to Prophet Elijah, the chain buried beside a grave, and realized how much had happened in such a short span of time. Yet now, a sense of hope replaced the dread that once hung over them. Amanda's visions would no longer be an isolated curse, but a tool to protect a future king and, by extension, the entire kingdom. Nneka swiped away a tear and smiled at her daughter. For the first time in years, she believed that brighter days lay ahead. Amanda simply nodded, gazing at the dusty road where the prince's carriage had disappeared moments before. She felt her heart swell with gratitude and relief, knowing her mother's hardships might soon ease. Though just 12, she understood that the gift she once feared could become a source of strength and purpose. And so the story ended where it needed to, with mother and daughter still together, safe a moment, and invited into a new life by the crown prince himself. The coronation was yet to come, and no one knew precisely what the future held. But one truth was clear: Amanda, the girl who saw what others could not, would no longer stand in the shadows of Yumyuk. She had saved a king, exposed dangerous secrets, and in doing so, opened the door to a different destiny. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts.